and welcome to the Blessed Life Week 20. I hope that you're having a great week so far. Let's get right into it. Now, the scripture comes from Romans 14:22, and blessed are those who don't feel guilty for doing something they have decided is right. Now, the title of this is Mammon Has Friends. Remember Mammon? Over the years, I've observed a couple of other spirits that tend to run in the same circles, especially when it comes to wealth and giving. Just as the spirit of mammon will keep you from living the blessed life, so will a spirit of poverty or a spirit of pride. A spirit of poverty will cause you to be ashamed of all the blessings of God. If you are a faithful, generous steward, you will be blessed. There is no avoiding it. As we have seen over and over in this book, the more you give away, the more God bestows. Being a giver will result in blessings. The devil can't stop it, but he can try to make you ashamed of it. This is the job of the spirit of poverty, and I've seen it afflict both the poor and the wealthy. In fact, it is more common in the rich than in any other group. It manifests itself in a sense of shame and guilt about being blessed by God. Think about this for a moment. Is there anything God could do in your life for which you would feel ashamed or should feel ashamed? Of course not. However, by simply doing things God's way, many believers receive blessings and somehow feel as if they have to apologize for them. Don't ever do that. Don't ever allow the enemy to make you ashamed of God's blessings. Now, if you're not susceptible to the trap of a poverty mentality, the enemy will try the opposite approach, a spirit of pride. Pride says, "You've earned this stuff. You work hard. Ingenuity and talent have made it happen. Thus, you should be proud of the blessings you have received." These spirits work from the opposite ends of the spectrum, but have a common root. They get us to focus on the stuff rather than God. We become centered on the blessing rather than the blesser. The spirit of pride says wealth comes from hard work. The spirit of poverty says wealth comes from the devil. The spirit of pride says you should be proud of what you have. The spirit of poverty says you should be ashamed of what you have. They are both traps because they're things focused rather than God focused. Let me give you a real world example of how the spirit or these spirits manifest themselves so that you can discern their attacks in your life. How do you respond when someone compliments you on your watch or your outfit? Pride says, "It's imported from Europe." Poverty says, "Oh, this old thing, I got it at Target." The spirit of pride tries to make people think we paid more for things than we did. The spirit of poverty wants people to think we paid less. Poverty feels the need to justify purchases. The possessions because justify purchases and possessions because it equates blessings with evil. It causes you to say, "I can't let you think I've spent very much on anything because that would mean I'm spiritual." Do you see the trap? Exposing a poverty mentality is the next section. Let me say it again. If you have been blessed by God because you've done things His way, stop feeling guilty. Don't be ashamed of having a heart God can bless. I speak from experience here. There was a time in which God had to show me just how prevalent the poverty mentality was in my thinking. It was especially strong because I have been in the ministry all of my adult life, and everyone knows that preachers are supposed to be poor. I remember purchasing a very nice jacket once and then returning it because I felt guilty about wearing it. It was a golf jacket that was just what I wanted and needed for some time. I found it at a golf shop at half price. I called Debbie from the pro shop to get her opinion, and she said, "It's a great deal, buy it." I wore it directly out onto the golf course and proceeded to play some of the worst golf in my life. Of course, because the spirit of poverty was quick to place the blame for my horrible score on the new jacket. God didn't want you to have the nice jacket. You've missed God, and now your golf game is cursed. Believe it or not, as soon as the round was over, I returned the jacket and got my money back. But that wasn't the end of it. The days that followed, I had begun to grieve over having to return that jacket. I stewed about it, and I actually found myself resenting God. I can't believe I can't even have a nice jacket. Other people get to have nice things, and I can't even buy a coat without my golf game being cursed. It's not fair, God. After putting up with this nonsense for about 3 days, God eventually got my attention and spoke very clearly. "Quit blaming me for you're not having that jacket. I didn't tell you to take that jacket back." Then he said something I've never forgotten. The Lord said, "Son, I never speak to you through guilt or condemnation. He also said, and by the way, don't blame me for your lousy golf game. You've never needed help from me to play badly. So, isn't it amazing that so many of God's people feel as if they must explain away the presence of anything good or nice in their lives? Or if anyone compliments them on something, they feel compelled to justify it. My friend, you don't have to justify your purchases to anyone but God. If God gives you peace about buying something, don't worry about what anyone else thinks. All right, stay tuned for the food for thought.